check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
I will start with the introduction since Michael Moore is feeling under the weather. Hello, I'm Nicole Jurgens. This is Michael Moore. Welcome to Highly Uncircumcised. Today
Hello
we're
there.
gonna no talk yet. Today we're gonna have a very good discussion. We're gonna rile Mike up a little bit. He's feeling the depression. We're going to have a really good conversation to get him out of the depression. We're going to talk about Civil War.
Don't I look depressed? I just look depressed, don't I? What was me? Oh, everybody needs a friend like Nicole. I mean, just to annoy the hell out of you. Anyway, okay, let's get into it. So actually last week we were what did we talk about? I don't even remember what we talked about, but I just remember what we talked about.
We're talking about it, like COVID being politicized.
Oh, that's right.
And basically,
That's right.
yes is the answer, but also, you know, getting to the point, like you and I were discussing before we just started, that often nowadays reality seems super distorted and on purpose, through the media, through major news organizations. They'll have headlines that I literally feel like they're trying to tell me the sky is green and the grass is blue, like literally. And I'm like, no, I can see it, but that's what they're trying to say, like literally trying to shift reality. And Mike and I went over a lot of different ideas or examples of how that happened. But the point is that this disconnect and this complete divide between, I don't know, what we see right now is some people who really think reality is just fine, society's great, whatever. I mean, we have all these extra things that we got to do, but whatever, it's society and it's normal. Those people like me who think, wait, this society is completely broken. Now we're doing all these things, and they think I'm paranoid, right? So there's these two factions that are getting farther and farther apart, to the point where some people are questioning, like, is there going to be a civil war? What's going to happen? And I always thought, no, but I know you said that you think it's quite possible.
But I said that a while ago. This was not like a new phenomenon. I told you this.
Right.
I told you this a long time ago.
So let me know why, like, what makes you think that, and how it's going to happen, really? Like you said, you've talked to people who've been in something like this before.
Well, no, what I was telling you was we were texting throughout the week, you and I had actually seen some social media posts where people were actually discussing. These are people that actually come from war-torn countries, Bosnia, Sarajevo, a couple African countries, Sudan, places like that. And they were actually discussing, because they now live in this country, the fact that they see and feel that our country is in the same place their former countries were at the point at which civil war broke out. I personally thought that, and I've never changed my mind on this because we've talked about this. I've always sort of ended up saying, like, I think there's going to be civil war, and you're always much more positive than me. But I actually thought civil war was going to be a symptom of political ideology and the political climate, meaning I thought it was going to come down to red and blue just don't get along anymore, and it's to the point where we don't mind shooting in the streets. But it's really not that. And I've actually evolved on that, and it's probably been over the last month or so that you and I have really been delving into COVID, but we really look at COVID from several different angles in terms of, like, how is this affecting society? How did we get to this place? Not really like, you know, are you anti-vax or anti-mask or anything like that? It's more like, why are we here where we are, and where are we getting our information from, and all of that. So having sort of processed a lot of my thoughts on all of that, I really think I realize now that civil wars, I still believe very much so, is going to break out, but it's going to break out because the contingent of society that's really tired of government, they're really tired of being told what is good for them, what is not good for them, how to live their lives, and so forth. are essentially going to turn their guns on said government. And I think it'll be at that point in which it'll become a very complicated and nuanced sort of civil war, in that I think that there'll be a contingent of people that want to defend the government. And by defending the government, they will then become the enemy of those who now are sort of the modern day American freedom fighters, revolutionaries, that are definitely going to turn this into a, you got to shed blood to really to make your point known.
How does it start though? Like how,
Just
when you say they turn on the government, but how do you even turn on the government? I mean, how do you even do that?
You remember, okay, so you remember in the 90s when Columbine happened. You and I were probably in our early 20s when that happened, I think, somewhere in there.
Well, what year was it?
Yeah, the Columbine was like, I think I had graduated, so I want to say it was like 90s, or maybe we were teenagers.
Yeah,
It might have been like
teenagers,
96, 97, somewhere in
Oh
there.
yeah,
I might have been like
17,
19.
18.
Yeah. Anyway, so Columbine really shook everybody up, right? Because this was like, whoa, these two dudes in black trench coats walked into school, shot the place up, right? And I think they killed like 13 or 14, not including themselves, right? Which at the time was like, whoa, you know, we were blown away. Kids were scared, like this could happen at our school and so forth. Okay, now fast forward to 2021. If you heard 13 or 14 kids got killed in school, you would be like, man, that's a shame. But it wouldn't devastate you, because we've seen like the killings like that gay nightclub. We've seen the killings like at the Mirage Casino that where the guy was shooting out the window at all the people at the concert. I can't even remember what they called that.
Yeah, was that Mandalay Bay or?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mandalay Bay. I said the Mirage. That's actually where we stayed, huh?
Yes.
But anyway,
that's why it was so cheap when we stayed there. I mean, not to make light of it, but and it was a year later, but
yeah. And anyway, so there's been so many of these sort of mass shootings that we've become desensitized to them, and we don't even really get sort of geeked up until we hear like huge numbers. Like everyone's probably just waiting for like the 100, you know, death mass shooting that's gonna happen at some point somewhere. Well, the reason why I say all that is to say I think civil war breaks out because there'll probably be incidents that will happen, little incidents, and those little incidents will grow into bigger incidents, and then those bigger incidents will grow into mass movements that are coordinated over like social media. You know, for instance, and I'm not saying that this is his fault or this would happen because of him, but like for instance, Trump has a new social media venue that he now has out there that's supposed to be to cater to obviously to the right, but freedom loving, you know, individuals, and sadly when a lot of the freedom loving individuals get together, you get something like January 6th, right? So January 6th could be the first of the incidents that I'm talking about, right? So I think people in America, when they think Civil War, they think North South, right? They think, you know, 200 years ago, everyone on fields with muskets and all that shooting at each other. No, that's not the way Civil War is going to look anymore, especially in this country. It's going to be a more coordinated, strategized, intellectual war, and it will be a physical war, but it won't be like, I don't think it'll be like you will walk out your front door and you'll see the red coats down the street or the blue coats down the street. It won't be like that. It'll be like, sadly, it'll be something like you're going to a concert and they've decided that's the place to get the most blue hats. And then the blue hats will be like, they killed 150 blue hats. You know what? They have a right-wing gathering in Phoenix, Arizona in 3 weeks. Let's see if we can kill 400 or 500 people, right? And that's how it's going to escalate in America, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't see us getting there, and I hope we don't. But a lot of people think it's going to happen. Some people think it's going to happen very shortly, and it could. I wanted to show this. This was an article that I just pulled up right before we came. So let me show this real quick. So this is, I don't know this publication, Brookings, but I just happened to Google and this is what came up, is the US headed for another civil war. And they did quote a 2021 national survey. And again, I'm not even all big on polls anymore nowadays, because who are they asking and who's answering? But for the sake of this conversation, they found that 46% of Americans believe a future civil war is likely. 43% felt it was unlikely. So this is like me and you, right? And 11% were not sure. War seemed more likely for younger people, 53% of younger people, which is interesting because usually when you're younger, you're not tuned into a climate, you know, you're not tuned into the civil. So that's actually super telling for me. But again, who are they polling? Where did they get these numbers? But so 53% for younger people, 31% for older ones. For those residing in the South, 49%, and Central Great Lakes region, 48%, relative to the East, 39%, but it doesn't say the West, which is interesting also. And then it levels, you know, a whole bunch of hot button issues, obviously, that we know all about: racial equity, border wars, gun control, abortion, election legitimacy, and obviously everything having to do with COVID right now. And it says high levels of inequality and polarization. And I think that's honestly like we talk about a lot. I mean, really, it's the polarization that's perpetuated through our leaders and then passed down through the media. And that alone we can definitely feel like the major divide. Just like, this is not going in a good direction. And especially considering if, you know, the major climate is the major hot button issue right now is COVID. COVID is declining everywhere, like everywhere, right? We don't hear that. Instead, we're just constant and continuous fear porn, more. And I know why, because it's in advance of the EUA for the 12 plus, which they got. So now they got the emergency use authorization of the vaccine for the 12 plus, and it's more. Now it's, you know, the EUA for the 5 to 11-year-olds. Again, vaccinating kids that are not even at risk for this disease. But the point is that polarization is put out through our leaders and perpetuated through our media. And I don't know how we make that stop. I don't know how we get past that. And I don't know that a lot of us even really notice it as much. We really think that what we're reading is the news and it's informing us. And I don't want to go so far to say brainwashing, because that's conspiracy theorists, but I almost feel like to an extent it can be brainwashing to a point, because I think sometimes if you ever woke up and think, well, why did I think that? Right? I used to think that, but it doesn't make sense. I really like this person, or I used to think I didn't like him, and it goes to show that how thoughts and ideas presented to us through the media and through our legislators and through our leaders get taken on without us really having a great idea of why.
Right. But the thing is, in my opinion, the real problem is not the media. The media is feeding the appetite of the people. If the appetite of the people wasn't satisfied by what the media was serving, then the media would serve something else, because the media just wants to make money. These are just networks that are all about money and shareholders and dividends and all of that stuff for their shareholders. They could care less if having stories about garbanzo beans got them super ratings. Every morning you would see segments on every news outlet about garbanzo beans and their benefit for your diet. The media does not care, in the same way that we all know that eating McDonald's is not healthy for us, right? But McDonald's sales don't decline at all year over year. In fact, they probably go up. You can drive by any McDonald's, and McDonald's could be on every block in certain cities, and each one of them would have a drive-through line that's full, right? People consume what they want to consume. And sadly, and this is what we were kind of talking about before we actually started this stream, people are consuming what they believe to be satisfying information for their ideology. People don't even care to hear the other side. The left does not care to hear what the right thinks. The right does not care to think what the left thinks. The independents are probably looked upon as just too small in numbers. So who really gives a crap what they're thinking? Libertarians represent like 2 or 3% of the population. So who gives a damn what they think? People don't seem to be consumers of all points of view, right? People consume what makes them feel good about whatever it is that they think. And the sad part about it is the media now, especially in this technological age that we live in, and this data-driven age that we live in, social media and algorithms and crunching numbers and deciding who people are just based on, you know, the numbers that you come up with on their likes, dislikes, the articles they read, and so forth. All of that stuff is now designed to feed you hyper amounts of the information that you are going to continue to look at this particular outlet's news feed. So the news feeds are designed to keep Nicole Jurgens coming back. You know, if you're looking at why COVID is overblown, you're going to continue to get all kind of information on why COVID is overblown. Me, if I'm looking at
For the record, there's no news organization that has that information. Nobody has that title. You have to go and find that information on your own.
Oh, okay. Well, you know, I certainly know, like for instance, last summer, the summer of, you know, all the riots and all the kind of stuff, Black Lives Matter, and you know, the deaths of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all the stuff that was kind of blowing everything up last summer. I would definitely read a ton of articles just on all this stuff. And then I noticed, like, damn, man, I cannot get racism out of my news feed. Like, it got to a point where I was just like, yeah, that white person did that in the grocery store. Why is this
Well,
news?
that's what I mean. No, but I mean, some people won't realize that. And then pretty soon they hit white people. You know, it's scary the way that this can lead a society, only for the reason that it truly works. And you see it in today's society. I mean, you were just
Nicole,
talking.
I'm a reasonable person, and I'm just gonna go ahead and pat myself on the back. I'm probably a little more reasonable than most of society, and I think you are too, as well, by the way. And most people don't have the wherewithal to say, "Damn, why is everything in my newsfeed about racism?" And then it clicks in my brain, well, because I've been clicking stories about racism. So now all they're feeding me is crap about racism. You used to tease me all the time about all the new clothes I would buy, all the new clothes and shoes and all this kind of stuff, right? And 99% of my shopping was like online. And then I realized, why is everything I look at an advertisement for like the latest shirt, the latest belt, the latest shoe?
They gotcha.
Exactly. And it wasn't until I like you were kind of like, Mike, you know, save some money. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I should. And then I realized, well, I gotta stop looking at all this stuff online, because I always see something like, damn, I want that. That's nice. You know, I can afford it. It's cool. And anyway, so that just goes to my point. Like, they feed you what you like to eat. If you like sushi, they got all the sushi for you. If you like steak, there's just steak galore. If you're vegan, boom, it's right there for you. So the real problem, back to my original point, is us. People have to realize you are being so manipulated by whole teams. Yes, whole teams of people who are literally being paid to figure out what will keep you staring at the screen.
It's not even people anymore. It's just algorithms written by computers know each of us and our habits and our desires better than we know ourselves. And that's really sad. They can track it and they can predict it better than we can ourselves, because we don't have any wherewithal to understand that, right? To understand that we do need to, and that's the other thing about critical thing. We do need to think for ourselves. We do need to understand, like, hey, wait a second. How come if I'm seeing every article has the same title, at some point, even though I agree with it, I got to think, well, wait, This is the only news in the world. Like, really? Like, out of all these people, this is the only, you got to understand that that's part of the system. You have to think for yourself. And that's another thing that I could go on about is, you know, the smear campaign against critical thinking is just like, for me, like, what? Like, you're not, if you're not an expert, you can't think at all. Like, don't do your own research. Like, give me a break. And I understand what people are saying. The premise is this idea that this conspiracy theorist person's at home and they're on Facebook and they're reading memes and this is where they're getting all their information. This is the thought that our society has of somebody who thinks for themselves, of somebody who does their own research. And that's the idea that they perpetuate through the media. And that's what people think.
But that permeates the entire of society, meaning
100%.
If you go to the doctor's office, 99.99% of people just absolutely trust what their doctors say. And there have been several times, especially when my dad was sick, I learned this. I almost felt like, man, I should just go ahead and go to medical school. There were several times when my dad was sick towards the end of his life, and he spent a couple months in the hospital. And I was there every day for hours, literally every day, 6 to 7 days a week. And so I got to know all the different numbers that they were looking at for why he was doing well here, or not doing well here, so forth and so on. So when I really started to acclimate myself to all that information, I literally started doing research on what could help here and what could help there. And I would bring the doctor's information, and every now and again, they would be like, oh yeah, you know what, let's give that a try. And it was from that point on that I said, you know what, never again will I go into a doctor's office and think that whatever he or she has to tell me is the gospel.
It's
because
not the
they
gospel.
don't
Like,
know everything.
We want to look to them to give us advice, but at the same time,
because
you have
they're
to.
Experts.
Yes, they're experts, but at the same time, we've gone to this part in society where that we blindly trust anybody who's called an expert, and they're human beings. I mean, prior to COVID, and maybe still, Dr. Error, errors in hospitals was the third leading cause of disease in all of the United States. Like, these people are human beings. The idea that you should blindly turn it, whether it's to your politician, to your doctor, to your nurse, to your governor, to whoever your teacher, whoever, that you blindly turn over your critical thinking to them and immediately do what they say. That's what's suggested in society today. And if you don't, it's suggested that you are this picture of this conspiracy theorist, completely right wing on Facebook person. That is how society, and by society I mean through our media, has again divided us. Right? I've never been a right wing person in my life, but I've always done personal research. I'm a quite smart person, if I do say so myself. But somehow I'm now in this field of these unintelligent, I get all my information from Facebook, and I'm gonna do a meme, and that's how I've decided what is important for me and my children. Really.
So check this out. I am literally about to blow your hat off your head. I'm gonna blow your mind right now.
I'm here for it.
I'm about to blow it. Do you know how someone becomes an expert on any subject, any topic, any discipline?
The only thing I can think of is the 10,000 hours quotation about it takes 10,000 hours to master anything.
Well, you know what, Grasshopper, you are not far from the truth. The way that one becomes an expert on anything is to study. Yeah. And a doctor is an expert on human anatomy because they have studied human anatomy for countless hours. But guess what doctors don't do? They don't take any classes on nutrition at all.
Or mental health,
If you're taking all of your advice about how to maybe, I don't know, change your type 2 diabetes or your, I don't know, I can't even think of another disease. But if you're thinking of ways to change that, and you know that in your heart, because you've studied nutrition, it starts with your nutrition, then why give yourself over to someone who just really wants to prescribe you to death, 100 different medications to mitigate your disease? I'm just picking on doctors right now because it's something that everyone can identify with. I love doctors. I have a few of them in my family that are close. But I just realized, like, we all have the capability of learning and discovering and researching for ourselves. I personally have learned a lot concerning COVID based on you kind of prompting me to sort of do my own research on stuff and not really just digest what was being given to me. So months ago, when you started saying, well, you know, the number is this and the numbers are that. And I'm like, no, they say the numbers are this and the numbers are that. And then I started really looking at the information and seeing how they actually massage the data. And when I, you probably remember, but like I called you one night and I was like, do you realize that like 1% of 1% of people are dying from COVID? I was blown away. And you were just like, yeah, I mean, that's what it is. And I didn't realize that until I actually started going into it for myself. Like, wait a minute, why are we shutting everybody's business down? We're about to collapse the economy over something that's like literally
we did
like
collapse the economy. We think that we think that we're out. We're not even anywhere near out.
Rich got much richer.
Oh yeah, I just saw something about 171 new billionaires were made during COVID.
Right. I mean, not that it has anything to do with COVID, but you look at a guy like Elon Musk. He's now worth $226 billion. I mean,
and that's also unfair, is this idea of COVID, like we made it scary. It's not COVID. It's our response to COVID. It always has been our response to COVID. And that's what I have always taken issue with from day one.
But the more that people step into the light, this circles back to the original premise of the show. The more people step into the light, I really feel like the higher the probability of civil war breaking out. Literally, the more people that take the red pill, there's going to be a higher probability for civil war.
If enough of them took it, we won't need it. That's the thing. Like, once you just realize that the truth is that we are stronger, there will be no civil war because it's all of us together. I mean, that's the thing. The reason why there'd be civil war is because the people are divided, and so it's the people fighting against each other.
We're subject to a very powerful, in fact, the most powerful government in the history of mankind.
It doesn't matter. Do you know how I know that? Because
you know?
they haven't tried to lock us down again. They haven't tried the Australia, because they know that people will fight.
I disagree with you. I believe the reason why they haven't locked us down again is because America still, at its core, is all about the bottom line, dollars and cents. And they don't want to harm the economy, which is still actually chugging right along. The stock market's still blowing up.
Could be. I mean, I could get on board with that as well. But I truly think that if they could have, they would.
I don't think they're scared of the people, is what I'm saying. Your premise is more that they're scared of the citizenship.
I think they're not prepared to start opening fire on them. I mean, it's going to be the end of our country if they do. I think they know that. Scared is maybe a strong word, but we're not. I mean, they built this country on the foundation of freedom, right? That's how they built this country. To then open fire and start a war against their own peoples, that's the end of our country, as we once knew it anyways. I don't know what it'll become. I don't know if it'll become anything, but it can't be
that's the story
America
of all.
anymore.
That's the story of most great empires, Nicole. That's the story of most great empires throughout history. That's not even remotely unprecedented that the
you say great, you mean like big, not necessarily good, right? You mean like,
well, great, I mean in terms of size and power. Yeah, not
necessarily good. Yeah.
Well,
okay, so I just wanted to read this really quick and we'll get more into Civil War, but this is about a couple of things. So this is a independent journalist. This is another thing that I do now. I read most of my news from independent journalists. A lot of them are on Substack, which is basically just a writing platform, a newsletter platform that's free. But you can also pay, a monthly fee if you want to get additional content from these journalists, right? Former journalists from New York Times, people who used to work for those big organizations, who now realize that those organizations are not spreading the truth. LA Times is just straight trash nowadays. I mean, it's very hard to find a story in LA Times that's not
the Times
incredibly biased, right? So anyways, he's Glenn Greenwald is one that I follow a lot on Twitter. He's the main journalist who interviewed Snowden secretly, right, when that broke. He was with a paper, The Intercept, but they had a big outing, and because his ideas, he wants to do free journalism, not about political views, not about anything, about actual journalism, right? And so he's gotten, in the past, he did a lot of journalism that was about people who were Republicans. So everyone said, oh, he's Democrat. Well, now he's doing journalism who are about people who are Democrat. Now they're like, what happened? I thought you were Democrat. He's like, I'm doing journalism, right? I'm showing the truth. These are the kind of people that I'm trying to follow. Another one, his name's Alex Berenson, and for a lot of people, they'll think he's a major conspiracy theorist because he's written a lot about COVID and the vaccines and how they have been not working. It's specifically known now that the efficacy fails to the point of now we're suggesting boosters, right? After 6 months. He was saying this from the beginning to the point where he got banned from Twitter. So anyways, I follow him on Substack. But he just wrote this, and a lot of these independent journalists are trying to figure out like what's next for life, which is the same thing for us, trying to figure out what's next for society, right? Like we're kind of redefining it all right now, I think. But he wrote this, and I really liked. He said, "I fear the United States is increasingly sick in what, for lack of a better word, might be called its soul." And I really like that sentence. I thought that's like super true. We're sick in our soul. We don't have this connection that we should, this heart that we should, this love, for the entirety of all of us that we should. And I guess there's no shoulds in life, but you feel like if you're going to have a healthy society, right? And he said, and I fear that our extraordinary efforts to medicalize the pain, real and psychic, of everyday life has played a crucial role in our decline. Pain is part of life. Illness is part of life. Death itself is part of life. Of course, we should do our best to challenge and defeat our maladies, to live long and prosper, as a wise Vulcan liked to say. But to pretend that we can live without pain or illness or death is to delude ourselves, and the delusion has come at an extraordinary price. Medicalizing chronic pain and trying to treat it with opioids has caused the United States far more problems than it has solved. Turning common psychiatric conditions into diseases that don't exist in any reproducible way is doing the same, though the effects are harder to measure than the body count of opioid overdoses. Which is to say, and this goes to the part we were just talking about doctors. If 10 doctors tell you it's in your head, maybe it's in your head. Maybe you should own the fact that leaving DC for Connecticut and having a third kid is stressing you out and you're having panic attacks. And that reminds me a lot of people I know, is that I know specifically some people who just have gone and had multiple different doctors until they finally got the diagnosis that yes, they have ADHD, and now they feel better because they have this diagnosis that they have ADHD. When really it's a fucking society we live in. They just had 2 babies. They're exhausted. They're tired. They're overwhelmed, but they can't face the reality of it. And so they'd rather have this diagnosis and get some meds to feel better. And that's what he's addressing here, which, and I've seen it in 2 different people in my life. So I can only imagine that's throughout the world, but I could be wrong. It could be anecdotal for me. Just like I should own, he says, and just like I should own the fact that my back is a ruin because I won't find the time to strengthen my abs. And that's comes down to personal responsibility, which I think a lot is lacking, right, in our society. But I think the thing that is important is like we are like sick in our soul, and this idea that we have this incredible fear of sickness, illness, death, to the point where it's ripping apart our society. It's like we have to at one point come to understand that these are they always have been part of society up until now. Like what made this, the reason? And maybe if we can find out what that is, why this thing is causing this even greater disconnect, maybe we can stop the whole civil war. I don't know. I just feel like it's super simple. Just take personal responsibility for your life. Everybody handle your shit, and then we don't have to worry about it. It's like everyone wants to tell everybody else what to do all the time, and they think that that's okay. And like, no, live your life. I'll live my life. Same thing I tell my kids. Worry about yourself. Everyone's gonna be fine.
Kind of feels like a mic drop.
Yeah, but I don't know how we stop a civil war though. How do we stop it?
I feel like things just are devolving so quickly and at an exponential clip, daily or minute by minute, that it's honestly just too far gone. It's too far gone. We've already passed the point of no return. And now we're almost just waiting for the shoe to drop.
So what are you going to do when the Civil War starts? Like, what are you going to do?
Lock all my doors.
Then what? Like, do you have a bomb
Communicate on
shelter?
Zoom.
Do you,
Communicate on Zoom.
do you have a
Hey,
bomb
Nicole.
shelter? Like what, how, you know, like,
No, I mean, so again, I don't see it being you walk outside armed, ready to shoot, red hats or blue hats. I think that you're just gonna have to be extra super duper duper careful about being in public venues. And by the way, that public venue could literally be the grocery store. I'm not talking about going to like some 100,000 seat football game or even like a concert or something like that where it's sort of low hanging fruit. I'm talking about like going to the mall on Saturday with your family, getting a frozen yogurt like we do from time to time or something like that, or going to a car dealership. If I was some crazy fanatic right-wing person, why not go to a Tesla dealership when it's all packed and full of people wanting to test drive stuff on a Saturday, just to get 50 people, right? So that's my whole point. It's not going to be about standing on some field and shooting at each other. That's just not reality anymore, probably almost anywhere on earth, except for maybe some countries that are not really, fully, formed yet.
okay, I have a question then. If that's, if we consider that that's not what civil war is anymore, it's going to be this new age, it's not going to be, this major battle. Could it be possible that we're already in civil war?
We are 100% in civil war. 100%. That's a great question. But I think what I'm saying is we aren't at the point where they're ready to identify what we're going through as civil war. When that crazy media that we've been talking about decides that they're going to identify it as civil war, then you will know that all the fit has hit the shan, like big time. And that's going to be the sort of marker, because we always love dates and stuff, so they'll want to celebrate 30 years from now when the Civil War ended or whatever, on whatever date. They'll figure out a time to say, you know what, Civil War broke out. But Civil War broke out in 2000, in my opinion.
Well, and yeah, and that's what you and I have been saying, and especially today, it's almost like a war on reality. I think it's an information war now, and reality is losing. From my point of view, I'm on the side that I feel like reality is losing. And yeah, I can see if this could be civil war the way we're feeling, why we're feeling so disconnected, why we're so separated from each other. I guess what we have to consider is how do we, turn it around before it becomes fucking bombing places and something ridiculous like that.
So I don't know what you think, but I don't have any clue how we turn it around per se. It would be nice to have a listener base with 100,000 or 1 million people, because we could then obviously be reaching, buku people. But just as individuals, or even collectively, meaning you and I really don't know how we could change what I see. I really don't.
We'll have to think about that.
Yeah. Maybe make some t-shirts.
We'll make some t-shirts. Make love, not war.
Give peace a chance.
We're gonna bring it all back. They're like, wait, it's not wartime right now. We're making sure that we don't have it. I want that shirt. Give peace a chance. T-shirts and Molly. Everyone take it now.
Touchdown.
Everybody, let's shape up. All right. Well, we'll think about it some more.
Yeah, we're pretty good about solving the world's problems, but this is God territory. This is like, supernatural intervention. America is just really. I too consider myself a pretty intelligent guy. And I have a hard time resolving all the different narratives about America. And here's what I mean. How in the world, for instance, is the stock market rolling at all-time highs every day? literally, because you know that I study this, like literally every day a new high is broken. Home prices are, I don't know how you buy a home in Southern California if you're not a full-on drug dealer at this point or a neurosurgeon. How is Tesla the number one car maker in America, and they sell an electric car that's, you know, double the price of sort of an average gas guzzling car, right? And I have no problem with Tesla being the number one. I'm just throwing this out there, right? It just means that people are spending money on Teslas, right? Because if you turn your head, all I see is Teslas now, right? How is, with all of that, and there's many other points I could make, how is it with all of that that we're still sending out checks because so many people are hurting, and we know that the unemployment numbers are absolute BS because they don't even check or they don't even monitor, I should say, people who literally just have given up on looking for a job, right? So the unemployment numbers are only those who have literally just been laid off or just been fired or whatever and are on unemployment and so forth. How in my mind that I thought was intelligent, I don't know how to resolve what is America. Are we really a wealthy country, or are we just a country full of poor people that have some super duper uber wealth at the top 1, 2, 3%? And are we all serving the 1, 2, 3%? And is that why we just get fed all of this BS? And the reason why I'm posing all of this to you right now is because I feel like that's why the Civil War gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because there are so many people at the bottom of the totem pole that are just like, we can't even live here anymore. We can't live.
Exactly. Again, and that's
this country is just so, the disparity in just even in the middle class now. The middle class is like the rich middle class, and then the people who are just sort of able to buy food weekly, middle class. Why are gas prices at all-time highs going into winter when historically gas prices are always at all-time highs in the summer, because that's when everyone's driving and going on trips? Like, I just feel like the upper echelon of earners in this country have figured out now that they can literally screw everybody below them at all times, and we're just going to take it.
Well, I think that what we didn't realize before COVID, and again, this is why I say COVID made me wake up, is that it's always been that way. But we were very comfortable and we made enough money and we were right. The disparity continues to grow, though. Like you said, the middle class is getting shrunken. And the reason why, what is America, why it was so great, and why it's known as the land of the free, is because we had this wide, ever expanding middle class. And that's us, right? The people who got to live how we wanted and do what we wanted, and had jobs that maybe we didn't love, but we made money and we had a life we loved, right? A large middle class that all could live that way. Does that mean there weren't poor people? For sure there were. And were there rich people? For sure there were. But the disparity is growing. The middle class is shrinking. And that's where I get back to this idea that there are no classes of people. There's no race. There's no gender. Who the fuck cares? All it is free or servant. That's it. If you're freedom or you're served, because that's the thing. That's it. Think of the dawn of time. It used to be kings and serfs. It used to be, right? That's all there ever was. And when we start to realize that we don't have that freedom anymore, which we still haven't realized that we're losing it, that's when civil war hits. And that's what I'm fighting against, is getting to that point. All we want is to live a normal, comfortable life. That's it.
I have a question for you, your personal point of view on this, because you and I have talked about, or I should say, you have expressed to me, like, you know, you get irritated with all the hatred for the super wealthy, right? Like, why do we hate them? Because they were successful financially, right? And I pretty much agree with you. I mean, I definitely have my own thoughts on this, but I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about, and these numbers aren't going to be super accurate, but it's relative to what I've read and seen. How do you feel about, say, the top 10 wealthiest of Americans, who pretty much are the top 10 wealthiest people in the world? There's like 1 or 2 non-Americans that are thrown in there. How do you feel about the top 10 wealthiest Americans literally having more wealth than the bottom 98% of Americans. Literally, their money cumulatively is more than all of our money, all of our 365 million person, bank account.
I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I'll say a couple of things. Number one, we created a system that allowed them to get there, right? We created the system through our legislation, through our laws, and we're continuing to do it 100 times faster with our COVID laws right now. 100 times faster. That's what I mean. It's like we're mad at them.
About it?
I don't feel bad at. That's what I'm saying. I'm not mad at them. To be mad at them is again another way that the media uses to divide us. Now I'm mad at this guy because they made all this money. No, we allowed it. We allowed it. Like you say, it's who you put into to be our leadership and legislature, right? We are allowing it still. What we're doing, the things that we're doing to basically put ourselves into serfdom, we're doing that to ourselves. While these guys will continue to make trillions off of it. And now we're mad at that guy. That guy didn't fucking do it. We're doing it to ourselves.
Let me play devil's advocate so I can get a little deeper into your thoughts here. You do realize that a lot of times the rich don't play by the same rules either,
They never
Nicole.
do. They
so
never
it's
do.
it's not that we just set it up for them. A lot of times these uber wealthy people are born on third base and they act like they hit a triple to get there. They don't go through. There are some self-made people and God bless them. But for the most part, 95% of these guys that we're talking about got starts that gave them great momentum to get where they are, right? I personally feel like there comes a level of immoral wealth. Like I would love to be super rich. I've never denied it. You know this about me. I would love to be super rich. I wouldn't feel comfortable with myself being worth $223 billion. I would find a way to give away 90% of that money while I'm living, not when I die.
Well,
If you gave away
that's
90% of $223 billion, you're still worth $22.3 billion.
But listen, okay, you're saying talking points that they say a lot in the news. And here's the thing. Number one, when they're worth $293 billion, that's their worth, not cash, right? So
Well, no, I understand
Elon
that.
Musk
I mean, he's
probably
all
still has tens or 20s or 100 million,
Elon
maybe
Musk
cash,
is
maybe
all stock.
But
yes,
it's there's no there. These not these guys have this massive bank account. But on the second thing, also a lot of these guys do. They give a lot of money out. But third thing, I'm not trying to defend them, but I think we're looking in the wrong directions. Do they get to make their own rules? Yes, but you know what? So can we. I don't know.
But
I don't live by the rules. I don't. Right.
The reason why I'm even talking about this, or the reason why I even bring this up, is because a lot of the vitriol and angst and frustration and anger on the bottom rungs of society are because of where the rich have gone with their wealth.
Yeah, but
and that is to the
again,
moon.
I think that's
So it's a huge problem, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I understand it's a huge problem, but I also think that's our problem. It's our problem with not taking personal responsibility. So I'm not saying that we are poor because we want to be. I'm saying we can see how this system is going to get us there slowly because we're doing it right now, because we're allowing it. We're saying, well, you don't have these rules. We don't have these rules either. We don't have them. They choose not to live by the rules. We don't have to. We are basically putting ourselves into serfdom, saying, well, I got to do whatever they say, and they're going to tell me I got to get a shot, and I got to do it, and I got to these guys are fuck you. I do whatever the fuck I want. That's what we're trying to do here. That's what I'm trying to do. The freedom to live the life you want. That's what these guys do. And they've happened to make billions of dollars off of it. And yes, it sucks because the disparity between them and the lower class, but they're not the issue. The system is the issue. And we are a much larger part of that system. We have to take personal responsibility and move towards the society that we want. Don't fucking worry about them.
You and I clearly agree then, because I fully believe that like I've stated in this conversation, that we are the problem.
100%. We are the problem.
Not the systems, not the people at the top. Mm-hmm. It's us, because we accept everything they shovel at
100%. And after waking up and seeing the system. So you call it a system because you understand now how it works. You understand now that the people at the top, the way they've gotten their money, allows them to play by their own rules, allows them to continually make more money, which makes a greater disparity for us. So you see that system, right? When you woken up, but to place blame on them doesn't help you change it. Changing it is by us changing what we're doing, which is not allowing it. It's very simple because there are how many people in the US? 350 million. Is that right?
Yeah, 70, somewhere in there.
So, there are way more than of us than the top 100 whatever that are running the world. So for sure it's like 100, and they're all this part is for sure they're all rich white men. 100%. They got that part right. The fucking old white men meme is 100% right. There's like 100 of them. That's it. There's like fucking 350 million of us just in this country. But their shit, and the way that they can control it is to keep us divided. And that's the problem. So we want to, I want to blame them. Oh, they got a rocket. That's not the fucking problem. Our problem is us. You can't get along with your fucking neighbor. That's your problem. Figure it out here.
It's akin to or analogous to, again, going to McDonald's, eating what you want every day, then getting told that you're type 2 diabetic, and then continuing to go to McDonald's and blaming McDonald's for the food that they're serving you.
Exactly.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
But that's society today. That's each of us today. We've lost our personal responsibility for everything. We have not only lost it, we've turned it over to our legislators. We have to our experts. We have told they're not, there should be our personal responsibility. They should take care of us. They should make us safe. Do you know what that means? If they're meant to do all that for you, you are a slave. That's it. That's what they want, whoever these people are that are opposite of my thought process. And that's our issue, is that we can still continue to live a great life. We can still continue to you know, are we going to be billionaires? Probably not. I mean, maybe, who knows, but probably not. But they don't fucking matter if we don't allow them to matter. But the way they've manipulated our entire society is so blatant during COVID that I think a lot more people have woken up and like, what the fuck is going on? Like, what is going on? But I don't believe it's new. I think we just starting to see it now. I think it's from the dawn of time. That's how it's always going to work, right? Like we said, there's kings and serfs, and the, you know, from the dawn of time, that's the way it's going to work. There are going to be people who power and money is all that matters, and they're going to do anything that they can to get all of it. And that means that they have to walk all over everybody else. But that means we have to allow it.
Right. And in fairness to me, I've had these thoughts long before COVID came along. Even little stuff like, I remember buying my car, or a car, a few years ago. And after the first year had passed, you know, you get sent your registration, so you have to repay your registration, right? And I just really, for some reason, paid attention to it, maybe because the registration was just so high on this car. I paid attention to like the actual amount, and that made me research, why is this car, because I own 4 cars, why is this car so much higher than the other 3 cars, right? And in researching it, I found out that registration is based on the perceived value of the car. Okay, so what's the big deal, Mike? Why are they charging me higher registration because I drive a more expensive car than the guy who drives the Honda Civic? Why wouldn't we all just have to pay $100 to register our cars and keep it pushing? That's the kind of stuff that we just swallow and just are like, okay, because I can afford to pay the $500. Let me just pay it so I don't have to deal with getting pulled over and not having my tags. But when we know exactly in actuality, this is bullshit. Why am I paying, you know, $200 more than my wife's car, who's actually a newer car than mine? You know, it didn't make any sense to me. And I did my own research, and it just got me pissed off. I was like, I cannot believe that I pay higher registration because they say my car is worth this amount. And by the way, I probably could never sell the car for what they actually say it's worth. So even their,
and that's, you know, exactly it. And for every single rule and law that's made, and all of these things, they have to be contested. And at some point, we have gotten so many people and so much that we don't contest anymore. We don't even try. We just expect that whatever's news is fed to us is factual and real. And so we've gotten to this point where we don't think for ourselves because we never had to, right? I mean, we didn't have to, like, life is good, whatever. And then one day you wake up and you're like, oh, damn it. Like, it could end up in a bad place if we don't start thinking for ourselves, right? But yeah, I don't have a problem with billionaires, other than the fact that I've always known that they're billionaire, trillionaires, whoever, how many of them, not even that many, have always run the world. That's how it's always going to work. And to worry about them really will take away from our life, because they're not the issue. We can make the life that we want. We just have to say no when they're doing this shit for like COVID. Like, we say no and they don't do it. Just like there's a lot of actually unions now that are fighting the COVID mandates. There's a lot of states that are fighting it now. So you can say no. That's the thing. And we don't think we can, based on news, like, oh no, this is just a mandate. It's just an edict. It's a law. Somebody said it, president said it, and that's it. No, in a free society, that's not how it works.
So I'm gonna blow your mind one last time, only because I don't want it to get just to become mush.
Want me to have a head still?
Yeah, I don't. I want you to at least walk away from the show with a head. You realize the COVID stuff is gonna be over one day. I mean, it certainly doesn't feel like it, but
God,
one day,
so.
one day, this is not going to be the main topic of conversation, nor will we give a damn about mandates, because all that'll be done and over. But America will still be America, Nicole, and there will be injustices and garbage like this going on all over. But my point to you is simply, for the people who are waking up, as you put it, you have to keep your eyes on everything. I would say don't just take one issue, make it your issue, and then that's that, because how are you really helpful? Because COVID's going to be done. We're not.
It's all the same. It's all the system.
I mean, it's
no matter what it is. It's all the system. It's like you said before. If you're talking about slavery, well, and like I was saying in kingdoms and serfs, and there's always been slavery. There still is. It's now women and children mostly, or just people trafficking. Right? We don't talk about it at all, so it's not a big deal. But there more likely could be much more slaves today than there ever were prior to the Civil War. Not even kidding. In our world, how many kids?
Oh, I mean, worldwide, that could definitely be true. There are countries that still have forms of slavery that are akin to the slavery that took place.
That's what I mean.
America. So I'm not just sex trafficking and all that. There are literally places where slaves are held. So that's a thing.
So that's what I'm saying, is that because I concentrate on COVID because it's relative right now, but it permeates, all the thoughts permeate to all the entire system. It really does. And when you really start to see it, you just realize, like, oh yeah, this is a system whereby the people who have a lot of money get to run the world and do what they want. But, and that means I become a pawn in their game, and you can see it a lot right now, right? But there's something else in that. If we weren't so divided, if we could come together, they can never do anything to us, ever. If every slave came together and fought, nobody could own them. If of course they don't have the means. They didn't think they did. They were brought here with no valuables, no money, no resources. They felt scared, and they had no family, and they had no right. But these are the same things, like, we think now, like, why we can't come together as people and live in a society that we want. We think the same thing. Well, I don't trust them. I don't know what to do. I don't have family here. I don't have, it's the same shit. It's all a system. It's the system from the top taking advantage of people below. But there are a lot more of us. My problem is that we insist on dividing ourselves. Like, we insist on it. We just have to do it. Like, we're so fucking stupid that we just have to do it. Instead of, we could all just live this great life. We just tell them no. If we remind them that, no, we put you in office to do this for us. You handle it, right? Like, it's going the wrong way.
Well, with all of that said, join me in lowering the car registration, because mine is due in December.
You will be picketing.
Follow me to freedom of exorbitant car registration fees.
Well, and that's just the thing too. It's like, if you had known that kind of law was going into place, you could have, and a lot of people did. That's the thing. Like, so many things can happen without us knowing anymore. There's just so much information, so much things to know. I even think about these mandates for our schools in California. In most states, they still allow exemptions, which they really should. It doesn't make any sense how you don't allow medical, personal, and definitely religious exemptions. There's a separation of church and state for a reason, although it's becoming much less now. The Pope's all in with government, but there's what's his name, Pan, who is a senator in our state, and he's also a doctor, but I do not identify with him at all. He's very the fear porn kind of guy, and he eliminated all the exemptions. Like, these are the kind of things that if we knew they were happening, we could, revolutionize or get together and try to stop. Once they're here, that's the fucking problem. Now they've been sold as, oh, it's getting so windy. They've been sold as, no, this is just the way it is. And now that's the way we sell everything else. Well, this is the way society works, so we just do it. No, but that's why I fight right now in COVID, because making sure that these things don't come to fruition, so that this is not the society that we just say, well, this is just the way the society is. This is just how we have to live. We just have to bring our phone everywhere and get a QR code and have our check-in. And I don't want to live in society like that. So that's why I'm fighting now. And this is what it takes for everything. And that's a problem. There's so much fucking information now that's hard to stay on top of everything, but it is 100% a system. But to get it back to our original topic, which was Civil War, I think we talked about it a lot, but I really I truly don't think it will happen, because it will happen, but I know you do, but I really truly think that we could just wake up and come together as people. It doesn't mean we have to think the same things. It just means we have to accept that people are different, right? That's it. It's one simple thing.
You realize that most of the things that I've said in this climate have come true.
Are you Nostradamus?
I'm Mike Stradamus, and I'm far more accurate than Nostradamus. He was my cousin, though. So, yeah, I'm telling you, man, you and I are going to look up, and it'll be I don't know, what is this, 2021? It'll be 2023-ish, and we'll be doing our podcast, and we will be talking about the latest mass casualty event.
Probably, because we can't get our shit together.
I'm going to blow your mind one last time.
Okay, last time.
I promise, last time. Just keep your head on your shoulders. I'm not even broadcasting from Earth today. I've just been trying to empathize with you this whole time, but to be honest with you, I'm nowhere near your galaxy, and I'm just praying for you. That's all.
Did you watch Dune? I watched it.
I haven't watched it because I don't remember the first one, so I kind of want to watch the first one.
Wait, no, this is the first one.
No, I mean, watch the original.
Oh.
The Dune came out in the 80s. That was yeah, the movie there. There's an old.
Well, this is clearly going to be more than one, because at the end they're like, this is just the beginning. So this is not.
Are you about to tell me the end?
No, I told you something that this is clearly going to be more than one. But I could not explain the whole movie, and it would take me 10 minutes, but it's good. I liked it. A lot of people did not. It's very sci-fi-ish, and it's surprising that I really loved it, because I'm one of the few people that didn't care for Star Wars, but I know, right? But I loved it. You
just changed our entire friendship.
You knew this already. You forgot. I
really didn't know that. Yeah.
I really liked it. But where was I going to go with that? Because you were saying something. What did you say?
That I wanted to watch the original.
You were on a different planet.
Yes.
I will tell you, so it's set in the year 10,100 something, right? I don't know. In the original, is it set then as well? So,
I don't remember. I mean, Dune came out in the 80s, but it was a huge movie, and it's based on a book, right? It's like a huge.
I think so. Very
or even a series of books. Yeah.
Yes.
So I will watch it, but I have not watched it.
Yeah, so it's set in 8,000 years from now, and where we've mastered interstellar travel, and so they live on, I don't even know if they're planets or different places in the sky. So who knows? Maybe since you're at a different place now, I mean, maybe that could be possible.
Well, I'm definitely not going to tell you where I am, because I don't want anyone to try and get up.
I know where you are. You can only be somewhere that Elon Musk can get you there. That's it. There's nowhere else you could really go right now. Or a space. Are you at a space station? That's it.
I'm not going to tell you where I'm at, because I don't want anyone to try and get here. But I will tell you that we just don't have these problems that you have down there. Now, here's what I want to know. You do have Netflix, right?
Yes.
Okay. Have you watched Dave Chappelle's latest
Yes, I
You
did.
did watch it?
Mhm.
Okay, we need to discuss this because it's really bothering me, and it has been bothering me over the couple weeks that they've been all this stuff about the LGBTQ
Okay, let's
transgender.
say that for next week. Let's do
No,
that
no,
next
I'm
week.
saying like that I want that to be our topic, and I'll tell you why. I'll just give the viewers a little pre-taste. I don't understand what everybody's tripping off of, and did I miss something? So I need someone else who's actually watched this to talk to me about this because I don't get why everybody's
I
going
don't
crazy.
get it either, but we'll talk.
Okay.
We'll talk about that next week.
All
All right.
right.
So we didn't solve the world's problems today, but this is just the
No.
beginning talking about civil war. I mean, I think even I was thinking as we're talking about like early civilizations, right? There's always struggle and strife, right? Always, even if it's just 10 people in your fucking tribe, someone's got to be fighting about something, you know? Like, so at the end of the day, the fact that we have 350, 70 million, whatever in our country, and that we're doing as well as we're doing is something. But I think it truly, most of our problems could simply be solved through personal responsibility and just individual understanding, like just an acceptance, like, okay, you don't think the same as me. Okay. You know, like it's even that is not so much like not allowed. No, nope, I don't believe you. Okay, great.
And hallucinogens.
And Molly. And that's it.
That's the way we solve the world's problems.
Yes, see, we're very medicalized now, right? So let's just add, let's just put that in there.
There's
There
a
you go.
plethora of it up here. I'm telling you, see that little light right there?
You just breathe it in. You just breathe it in up there.
That's the Molly store.
Perfect. It was just, what if it was just the air? That'd be perfect. Like it just
We
understanding
all have
and
holes in
happy.
our brains.
Well, if it was natural, if someone could make some natural stuff. All right. We're done for today.
We are done.
Stay tuned for next week when we tackle
Stay
the
tuned.
LGBTQ
Alphabet.
MNOP. So,
Exactly.
all right. We'll
We're
see
gonna
then.
get there one day too.
We're
by the
gonna.
way.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.